Hey everyone, this is Elisa and you're watching The Art Occultist. And today I'm just chilling at home and I watched this video on YouTube. It's called Am I in the list of real tarot readers? And this video is from Crescent Dreams Tarot, and it's a VR to Amethyst Ascensions video, which I haven't watched, but I thought that this video was really interesting and I wanted to share my thoughts on the topic, and I'm going to be doing that on the spot. I haven't prepared my responses, and I'm just going to be thinking out loud and sharing my views with you on this topic. There are 14 prompts to which I'm going to be answering, and in this video I'm not going to be showing you anything, so you can just play it like a podcast style while doing something else. So with that said, let's jump into the questions and I'll give you my honest opinions about them. So the hashtag is about real tarot readers and what is a real tarot reader actually. So yeah, the first question is, do you have to know all the book meanings to be a tarot reader? If so, what book meanings? So my opinion is this: if you read tarot, you're a tarot reader, but under this there are certain groups of people that are doing it in a different way. Now to the question, do you have to know all the book meanings to be a tarot reader? Yes and no. Because when you're a beginner, you're still learning, and then it's more appropriate to say that you're learning tarot, but you're not yet a reader. You don't have experience. But if you claim to be a professional tarot reader, and if you read for other people and you charge money for your services, then absolutely yes, you have to know the book meanings of the tarot cards. Not like some tarot readers here on YouTube and on other platforms that call themselves tarot readers, but when they flip a card, for example, they flip a tower card, they say that everything's going to be good and happy, because the meaning of the tower card is not about things being great and happy. So that being said, if you're learning tarot and if you're a newbie, you're a student, you're still a tarot reader because you're learning to read the cards. But if you're and then you don't, nobody's expecting of you to know all the meanings and what each card signifies in a reading, because you're a student of the tarot, you're learning, you're new to this practice. So you can still call yourself a tarot reader, but you need to specify, this is my opinion, that you're still learning. If so, what book meanings? That's the second part of the questions, and I'm assuming that this refers to which system, because there is Todd, there is Tarot de Marseille, and there is RWS meanings, and there are more traditional meanings used for fortune telling, and then there are more updated meanings which more people use nowadays. For example, in the past the court cards were usually described as a tall handsome man with let's say blue eyes and dark hair will come to you if a certain court card showed in the came up in a reading. But nowadays I don't think many people interpret the court cards like this, and we look at the chords as more of as an energy, not so much a outer appearance of a person. So yeah, you have to specify what book meaning means for you first. But for sure, if you're a professional reader and if you charge money for readings and you read for other people and you give advice, you have to be competent, and you can use your own interpretations, but underneath that you have to have the book knowledge for at least one of those three systems: Marseille, Todd, or the Rider-Waite-Smith. Second question: can you be an intuitive who uses the tarot cards and be considered a tarot reader? For me, all tarot readers are more or less intuitive people, but I think that the question addresses those people that never bothered reading a book on tarot and that they purely go on their intuition, which is fine, I guess, but for me this is not a serious tarot reader. And in my personal opinion, before doing a reading for somebody else as a professional, you have to specify to that person how you read the cards, what is your technique, and do you go based on traditional meanings layered with your intuitive hits, or if you go purely based on your intuitive hits and you disregard all the meanings. For me that's important, as I'm a professional reader. I read for other people. I have this information on my website so that people can be informed if we're a good match for each other. When it comes to only reading for yourself, I don't think that none of this matters. You can call yourself a tarot reader if your practice is only reading for yourself and you're purely intuitive. I don't think that anybody cares about that. The third one is: do you have to be reading for others to be a real tarot reader? No. Like I said, like I hinted, some people are reading only for themselves, and that's great. That doesn't make them lesser of a tarot reader, or not a competent tarot reader, or not a real tarot reader. That's just preference, if you want to read for others or if you don't, because when you read for others, at times it can get complicated. It requires additional skills than just reading for yourself. So no, you don't have to read for others to perceive yourself as a real reader, but you have to specify that. The fourth one is: do you have to be a professional reader to be considered a real tarot reader? No. For the reasons I mentioned in the previous question. So yeah. The fifth one: do you need to have a certification to be a real tarot reader? If so, who determines if you're certified? Now, I have a mixed feelings about people, especially nowadays, that sell certifications for tarot and that claim that if you take their course, you're going to be a certified tarot reader. For me, simply this is BS, because first, there's no tarot police, and there's no, how to put it, if you're trying to be a doctor, there a certain procedure that you need to, an education that you need to undertake in order to be a doctor, in order for you to treat your patients. And that's something that's very seriously taken, as it should be. But when it comes to tarot readings, for me, the people that offer certifications, most of the times they are trying to scam you out of your money, because this is a very spiritual thing that I don't think a single person or even a group of people are competent or can tell or can tell you that you are or you're not that thing. So for me, this is all BS. And no, you don't have to have a certification to be a tarot reader, and most of the tarot readers don't have certifications and they don't need that. So yeah. Next question, do you need to know the Golden Dawn symbolism or astrology or Kabalistic Tree to be a real tarot reader? My answer is no, you don't need to know those stuff. You need to have a basic understanding about the cards and their meanings. You need to be able to answer your querence questions. But you need, if you read for other people, you absolutely need to have some basic understanding of tarot traditions, the symbolism that's depicted on the cards, and you have to have at least the basic knowledge of what each arcana means, what it represents. You have to know what the suits represent. For example, the swords being the intellect, mind, thoughts. You have to know the meaning of the numbers if you're reading with a Tarot de Marseille, or even if you're using standard RWS deck. If you read for others, those things you have to know them, in my humble opinion, to be a professional reader. If you read only for yourself, for fun, or for your friends at parties, just for the fun of it, no, then you don't have to know those things. But if you're presenting yourself as a professional reader and you're charging money, then definitely you should know at least the basics. And yeah. Next one, do you have to know the history of tarot to be a real reader? If so, what history? For me, knowing the history of tarot and, how to put it, the people that are tarot nerds and that are really, really invested into tarot itself, they'll do research. We're just like that. We go to down rabbit holes all the time with the tarot, and that's just natural, at least for me. And I know many of the other tarot tubers here on this side, on the tarot tube, are just like me. They love research, they love learning new things about tarot, they love learning about the history, etc. And for me, that's important, just because I think that when you're seriously invested in something, you want to know everything about that subject. But if you're new, no one expects of you to know so much, and it's more important to start, for me at least, that's my opinion, it's more important to start learning how the actual system functions in terms of readings, how to interpret the cards, how to connect them, and all the history stuff comes at a later stage. But for me, all serious tarot students, tarot readers, must at some point dip their toes into history and at least know their basics. But if you're not a tarot history specialist and you don't particularly know everything about tarot history, yes, you can still be a tarot reader, and a good one. It's not a requirement, but in my opinion, all people that are serious about tarot at some point or another start researching the history. That's just natural. So we're at 8, and this is, does having a smaller or larger collection determine if you're a better or worse or real tarot reader? I think that's a very controversial topic on the tarot tube in general, and what size is your collection has been a very discussed topic here. And for me, no, it doesn't matter. You can be a great reader with one deck, and you can be great reader with 1,000 decks. This is purely depending on the person and their preference. And for me, in the past, especially, I was a huge advocate for having a smaller collection, because then you can spend more time with each deck individually and get to know its imagery, its vibe, etc. So in my brain, it makes sense to have a small number of decks, but to know them intimately well, and use only those decks for your readings and for your professional readings. But from another point of view, having a multiple decks and a larger collection, it gives me the opportunity to choose different imagery and not to get bored, and to explore new, how to put it, and to have new reactions to the same cards but with different imagery, if that makes sense. And for me, I've established that for me, learning from that emotional response that I have to a certain depiction of a certain card, I'm learning a lot about the whole archetype of that card. But no, for me, it doesn't matter if what's the number of decks in your collection to determine whether or not you're a good reader or a bad one. Do you have to use certain techniques or customs to be considered a real tarot reader? For example, be gifted your first deck, shuffle a certain way, or use certain spreads, or no spreads at all. None of that. Like, for me, this is strictly and highly personal. Each tarot reader has their own preferences. I have my own, and that's just that, preferences. The way we shuffle, whether or not we are gifted our first deck or not, doesn't determine if we're real tarot readers or not. Our knowledge base and how we interact with our clients, if we are a professional reader, that determines whether or not we are good or bad of a tarot reader, just as in any other professional field. I just want to mention here, because it just came to mind, because we are talking about what a real tarot reader is. I want to specify what a tarot reader, which people are not real tarot readers. And I want to speak about all those scammers that are impersonating people over at Instagram and other platforms, pretending to be other people, pretending to be tarot readers, real tarot readers, and messaging random people, offering their services and their readings. That's fake. That's not real, and that's BS. Real readers don't have the time to approach people and offer their services to, in that modality. Real readers have established ways in which the querents can reach them if they need a reading. It's not the other way around. The querent pursues the reader, not the other way around. I just want to specify that that's not, those people are not tarot readers at all. They're not real, and they're most likely looking to scam you out of your money. So please be careful. And on that note, me as a tarot reader, I will never reach out first and offer you my services. If you want a reading from me, you have to go through my website, fill a application, send an email, and then we can talk. But I will never say, hey pretty, there's this energy around you, I feel like there's a message from you. This is bullshit. Please don't trust those people. Okay, so let's move on with the tag. Okay. Do you need to read a certain way to be considered a real tarot reader? For example, be a psychic, read with a divine communication, higher self connection, psychological, or even predictive reader. And no. Do you need to read a certain way? No. I think that how to put it? Being a tarot reader is simply that you read the cards, and the rest is how you market yourself. If you're a psychic, if you communicate with divine beings and then incorporate that into your reading, that's great, but that doesn't make you a better reader than somebody that's not doing that, or from somebody that's using more of a psychological model in their readings. I think that all of those are equally valid, and it's once again personal choice how you want to approach the cards, how you want to present yourself, etc. And I feel like I'm answering all those prompts from a perspective of a professional reader that's reading for other people, and not so much of a people that are reading only for themselves, because like I mentioned, if you're reading only for yourself, none of those things matter. Okay, next one. Can you refer to your guidebook and still be considered a real tarot reader? Yes and no. For example, in my personal practice, when I read for myself personally, I oftenly consider guidebooks, and when I get a new deck and it's a bit out of the ordinary in terms of imagery, I often sit down and read the whole guidebook so that I can get more acquainted with the deck. And I think that some guidebooks are amazing, but most of them, in my personal opinion, are rubbish, and they are a waste of ink and actually trees. So they're wasteful. But there are a few good ones for sure. Can you refer to your guidebook and still be considered a real tarot reader? If you read professionally and during your reading you pull a guidebook because you don't know the meaning of the card and you cannot translate the message to your querent on your own, I'm sorry, but you're not a real tarot reader in that sense. And you're scamming someone out of their money, and you're not providing a valid service. To be a real tarot reader and read for other people and be professional, You have to know how to read the cards by yourself without the help of a guidebook or anything like this. So, as I mentioned, yes and no. Next one is reading with playing cards, and this is the last question that I'm answering. This is the 13th prompt. Is reading with playing cards, Lenormand, Oracle cards, or Keeper, or any other cards besides tarot still considered a real tarot reader? No. You're a tarot reader if you read tarot cards. Now, if you read tarot cards in combination and with Lenormand or with an Oracle deck, yes, you're still a tarot reader. If you combine those two systems while you're reading for a client, let's say, yes, then you can call yourself a tarot reader, and that's totally valid. In the case where you don't know anything about tarot, you don't use tarot cards, and you do all of your readings, for example, with playing cards, and you call yourself a tarot reader, I don't think that's okay, because that's actually a lie. You a card reader, but you don't read tarot, you read playing cards. So why would you call yourself a tarot reader? And the same goes with people who only read oracle cards and call themselves tarot readers. No, you're not a tarot reader because you read oracle cards and you know nothing about the tarot system. So no. And especially you're not using the cards themselves, so you are not a tarot reader in that sense. You're a oracle card reader, and those are totally valid. Like I respect people who only read oracle cards or only read Lenormand. For me, that's perfectly fine, as long as they market themselves as accurately, and as long as they're honest in the service that they provide. Let me drink some water. So yeah, if you are a Lenormand reader, just say that you read Lenormand cards, so that people that approach you know exactly what they're getting. So those were my questions about the tag real tarot readers. And yeah, thank you so much for spending time with me. Thank you so much for being here. And I had a lot of fun sharing my thoughts with you guys. I hope to hear from you down in the comments and continue this conversation. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!